Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's developer coaching webinar. My name is Tara Van Cleve, and I am part of the database organization here at Oracle. Today, we're excited to show you a live demo of how to build intelligent agentic AI solutions using the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure AI agent framework. I'd also like to note that we are recording the webinar, and you'll receive the replay via the same email that you registered with after the event concludes. If you have any questions, we've enabled the Q&A section of the Zoom and will answer throughout the hour, as well as leave some time at the end for any remaining open questions. Today's webinar will be presented by Luke Farley, Oracle Cloud Engineer, and Thomas Pelskill, Oracle Staff Engineer. So without further ado, Luke, I'll hand it over to you to take it away.
All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Today we'll be covering the generative AI agent platform within OCI and the agent development kit, which is the interface we use for programming custom applications. And joining me today is Thomas Pascal, and we'll start off with the agenda. So brief safe harbor statement. So the agenda today is, even if you're new to agents in general, we will start with the brief overview so we're all on the same page. And then we're going to go into our live lab. So we have a sample demonstration, and the live lab will go through the steps on how you can deploy this solution on your own tenancy. And then after that, we're going to go through our digital assistant tour with Thomas. And then we'll do a brief agent tour, followed by the demo. And then we'll have a Q&A session, followed by our Code Innovate program. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump right in. So what is the goal of the AI agent platform? Well, as many of you know, that many of the popular models out in the market don't have all the capabilities of being able to leverage your enterprise data. So what our agent platform allows you to do is to easily plug in and leverage that enterprise data so that way you can quickly derive value for your business. And we also have with the agents an ability to create your own tooling so that way you can automate workflows and improve your operational efficiency of not only the end user, but your developers as well. So again, the idea would be to ground the agent knowledge in your own business data. And what our solution does, we have security built in mind. So if you have complex infrastructure and government compliance, we have with our platform secure by default methodologies. So all the components of the agent platform is able to be integrated by leveraging policies and granting access to those components individually. All right, so understanding AI agents. So there's a lot of confusion on the difference between what a model is and an AI agent. So the basic difference is that an AI agent has a much more broad capability to integrate with your other systems and applications using what are called tools. So if you ask your typical ChatGPT model, what is my cash flow last week? Well, obviously, ChatGPT wouldn't know what your cash flow is because it's not integrated with your business data. So with our agent platform, we have the capabilities for you to plug in your database with your own custom data and configure a tool, it's called a SQL tool, to be able to ask questions against your data sets. And you can even invoke separate APIs. So if you have an Internet of Things application where you are trying to turn off light bulbs at a specific time, you can invoke an API to turn off those light bulbs. And it doesn't have to be light bulbs. It can also be any external system or other application that you're using. If you have disparate sources across your vast library or portfolio, you can make sure that they're all synced together by leveraging an API tool. Another similar tool you can use is what's called chain of thought reasoning. So it's a way of prompt engineering where you can add the steps for a specific tool. If you have something like a policy where you need the agent to follow a specific set of steps to execute, You can define that using a chain of thought within the tool, so that way the agent follows the same steps every time. And same for shipment processes. So again, there's a wide array of tools that you can develop for your business, and this is just a few of them. So what is an AI agent? Well, again, it's simply a model that is augmented with different tooling capabilities. So this enables your business to accomplish complex tasks, and you can also mimic chain of thought processing. So this is the same with the prompt engineering, and you can also automate workflows. So another common example would be if you're doing some sort of order automation with your business, you can add an email approval chain for your orders to make sure if you need to send that up your management chain for approvals, you can associate an email tool within your agent so that way when a user places an order that would go up through your management chain and you can get approvals. And of course, last but not least, the enterprise knowledge stores. Again, all this is premised on the idea that the model is grounded in your own business data. So what can an AI agent be designed to do? So we have our new AI World coming up in October here at Oracle. And if a user wanted to ask, book me a flight to Las Vegas for AI World and a room at the Venetian, well, the agent would need to understand which tools to use for that prompt. So you typically have a database in your backend that has all the flights available and all the rooms available. So traditionally, you would have the user go into, a, a flight website. They have to go comb through all the different times and locations. And what the agent can do is it can automate and abstract a lot of that complexity within our platform. So that way the user can interact with it in a natural language dialogue to be able to make actions and book a flight and a room at the Venetian. And then they'll send back the confirmation that your travel is booked. So this slide, there's a lot going on here, but I just wanted to focus on a couple of these different blocks. This gives an idea of just the breadth of the different use cases you can use agents for. Again, going back to order management, for example, if you have someone that's ordering, say, a laptop, you can create an agent that would go into a database, confirm that this inventory is available, and if it is available, it can go ahead and execute against that external system by either leveraging a SQL tool or an API call, and then sending a confirmation, or even if you needed to follow up and ask questions to the end user, such as which address you would like to ship this product to. So again, it's a way to expose the business applications using a natural language interface. Another agent I'd like to focus on under knowledge and content management would be the document summarizer agent. And this is one agent that we'll be demonstrating later today in our call, is when a end user uploads their own document, we have a custom function that can trigger the document understanding service. So it would send that document to the document understanding service within OCI, process that, extract the text of that document, summarize it, send it back to the agent. And then that content would stay within the context of the LLM so the user can ask follow-up questions. Now, what's nice about this application is that you can bundle various agents together. So if you had a specific solution that needed to cover order management, document summarizing, and analytics assistant, for example, you can have all those agents bundled together and then controlled by one master agent. So the amount of variations that you can create here is immense, and it shows the breadth of the applications. So what are all the benefits of utilizing this? Well, again, boosting productivity. It's not only boosting the productivity of your end user who's interacting with the agent, but even the developers. So that we'll go into detail more with the live lab that we'll demonstrate. But the idea with our agent platform is to really get rid of all the details and the complexities of implementing everything manually and providing a simple to use interface to get your proof of concepts running fast. And again, this leads to a reduction in human errors, not only with the end user, but with the developer. And this is all based on the idea of your model being grounded within your business enterprise data. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Thomas, and Thomas is going to go into more detail on the specific tools that are available within our platform.
Okay, so Luke did a great job of discussing exactly why we want to use AI, why we want to use these AI agents. So, what is OCI or Oracle Cloud Infrastructure? What is their approach and how we do it? So, the idea is simplified development. And by that, I mean you can have a developer build an AI tool, or you can have a business user develop an AI tool, right? And essentially, what that means is all we need is a few quick prompts. Um, your developers might handle that, but at the end of the day, we design the LLM based on a single prompt. So, simplified development, you type simple English in, and then uh, you have a model that starts to work. Customization and flexibility are obviously huge for us. So we don't just want to use the huge LLM. If you're a bowler, you can think about bumpers. So customization and flexibility are a little bit like bumpers in bowling, where it keeps our ball on track um, without getting random answers that we don't need. So we can instantly add in customization. We do this using the RAG, which adds extra context. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And then your entire foundation is built through these low-code solutions. So it seems like a lot of the media has been saying that you need these intense AI engineers to build your AI system, but it's really not true. As long as you have business users that know their needs um, on OCI, you can build out those AI agents. Right. So let's think about the agent core. The agent core is the brain of the system. It is what we give that initial prompt. But a brain can only do so many things. A brain needs to control other things, right? So if we think about the human body, the brain controls all of your other limbs. And so those other limbs in our context are tools. Right? So we have what we call pre-built tools and custom tools. The RAG tool is, we'll talk about it a little bit more in a minute, but it adds context to the LLM. So we're not just asking generic questions, we're putting up some bumpers, right? The SQL tool, Luke mentioned a little bit earlier, allows us to not only have DBAs associate with the database. Any business user can ask a question. So, how many employees have not filled out their time card for last week? I can easily ask that in human language instead of writing a SQL command. Right? And then it goes even further than that. I can write functions, so JavaScript, uh, Java, Python, whatever you need, anything that Oracle Functions supports, we can call those as well. And then just call third-party APIs. So if the data isn't hosted on Oracle, maybe we need to call a third party. So we can do all of that through our genetic AI. So let's talk a little bit more about RAG. So RAG means retrieval augmented generation. Essentially, what it does is it adds more context to your LLM. Right? And by doing that, it gives you enhanced accuracy. So instead of getting hallucinations, um, we all might search something on the internet now and get an AI overview, um, and notice that there's some hallucinations there. Those hallucinations are just what we call bad responses, right? So you asked a question and it's not quite giving you the quite right answer. So context handling uh, goes in that same vein. What we do is cache every question that's asked. So as an organization, there might be many repetitive questions. We store all of those. And so we don't need to go back to the LLM for those. We can give a similar answer. And then finally, it's all built on OCI, so it's customizable and scalable. Again, going back to the bowling example, you can set up your bumpers. Um, if you're a healthcare worker, you probably don't want to hear about leeches or bloodletting, but a historian might. So keep all of those things separate. And so to reinforce the point, um, with the RAG, what we're able to do is enhance the configuration. Again, add more context, right? And the way we do this is through a vector database. And a vector database has multiple points um, that create relation not only one-to-one, but many to many. So we can understand different questions um, based on keywords. What that results in is better search results, right? So again, we don't want hallucinations. Um, we want to actually answer the question that people are asking. And we don't give it back in essay form. We give it back in a paragraph form. And then finally, um, if you're a multinational company, if you need all of this to work, so if you're developing in English, but you need it to work in Mandarin, Cantonese, Spanish, all of that works just with a single build. And then finally, like why use Oracle? Um, so our SQL tool is built the best. It allows business users to just input information, any question that they have that the database might have the answer to, uh, will respond. And so again, why use Oracle? Why use OCI? Why use AI in general? Um, Everything that you have on Oracle, whether it's Fusion databases, um, anything like that, we can easily connect to that data and bring back responses for your business users. We have scalable performance, essentially meaning that so long as you've defined the metrics, we can scale up or scale down based on usage. Right? So nothing will ever break. Improved accuracy, that really comes down to the RAG. And with that, I'll hand it back off to Luke.
All right, so now we're going to jump into our live lab. And our live lab, if you haven't had exposure to it before, it's a way to have a guided step-by-step walkthrough of deploying these solutions on our cloud. And I wanted to first focus on the architecture of the solution that we're going to be demonstrating today. So the UI portion is exposed in our visual builder. And the visual builder is configured in JavaScript. So all you have to do, this is our visual builder application, is plug in a channel of your digital assistant. So with right behind the visual builder, you plug into a channel which is connected to a skill. And the skill is the heart of a digital assistant. And that's what's connecting to our function in the backend, which connects to our agent platform. So one thing to note here is your digital assistant can be exposed not only on Visual Builder, but it can also be integrated natively with Microsoft Teams or Slack or various other client applications. So the idea is once you have your skill configured and connected to your backend function, the agent itself would be the brain of the operation that's deciding which tool you're going to use, depending on the user's query. So if, for example, you wanted to get up and running quickly with your own data set, the fastest way to go about this would be if you have a set of documents, set of PDFs, you can upload that within our object storage bucket. And then we have a system in place where it automatically ingests and create a data ingestion job off of that object storage bucket. It would vectorize all your documents, chunk them, and embed them. And then the user can ask natural language queries against that. You can also, if you wanted to interact directly with your database tables, you can, again, this assumes that you have your tables polished and embedded and ready to go, but then you can create and expose a procedure that would connect to that database so you can perform semantic search or vector search with your data in your database tables. Now that's slightly different than the SQL tool. So when you're using the SQL tool, it would be more for converting the user's natural language query into a SQL statement. So in our demonstration today, our example is if you have a table of employees, you would have to translate if the user asks for a list of employees, you'd have to translate to that to say, select all from the employees table. And if you have more in-depth use cases, you can also leverage custom function tools. And again, this is where the agent development comes into play. You can define specific tools such as document understanding. So if you wanted to leverage other OCI services, such as document understanding, you can configure the agent to send documents to that service, which would process the content, send it back to the agent, and provide a summary. And then we'll also be going over the weather tool. So if the user asks a specific question on the weather for a location, that would trigger the weather tool, call an API, which would get the data for the location in question. So this is the backend architecture, and the live lab will go through setting up each component of this. The first live lab goes through setting up the agent service itself. So if you wanted to get going quickly with the proof of concept, you can provision an object storage bucket, upload your PDFs directly. And again, this is with built-in capabilities. We have the ability to vectorize and embed those PDFs so that way you can start to converse quickly with your data sets. And then the last step of this lab would be to configure your function application. So the function application is, again, what is running the agent development kit, which is the programming interface to develop your own custom tools. So going into the agent tools section, so lab 2 is the most intensive in terms of the content, because this is, again, where you're defining all the various tools for your business. And one important thing to note is, in my own experience, when I was going to develop this solution, you have to be clear with your instructions. So if you don't give clear instructions to your agent, it could route to the wrong tool. You could spend hours trying to debug what's what seems like a bug, but it's really just a lack of clarity in the instructions. So if you can define this clearly, usually, if you can define it to a teenager and they can route it, so can this agent. So you have to be clear with that. And so this will go through the wizard of configuring, whether you're configuring a RAG, SQL tool, or custom tool. Go step by step. And then here you could see this is the OCI console. So if you want to test against a certain data set, you can ask queries directly in the console. In our demo later today, we'll go through what it looks like with the full architecture implementation as shown earlier. And dynamic group and policy definitions, this goes back into our secure design principles. So naturally, when you enter into a cloud tenancy, none of the components are going to be able to communicate with one another because we have this secure by default. Uh, so you would need to explicitly add policies and dynamic groups in order for the digital assistant to communicate with the agents, say, and the document understanding service, or any other service that you want to leverage for your business. So the big component here is the SQL tool. So again, according to this example, if you have, say, a table of employees, you can define that within the SQL tool. So assuming you have the table defined in your backend database, within the SQL, you can have the SQL tool of the agent, you can have the database schema input directly in here. So we have the attributes for the employee ID, the name, and hire date. And you can also add examples. So say, for example, if you have a table in your database that has certain acronyms for column names, naturally, intuitively, no one would, including the agent, would be able to understand that you're trying to query a certain table if you're asking a natural language query. So you can add examples into your SQL tool in order to improve the accuracy of your responses. And again, going back to Thomas's analogy, there's also built-in guardrails. So if you want to basically provide a set of bumpers for the user, so if the user's queries are outside of bounds, these guardrails, these built-in guardrails would prevent a wrong answer or a hallucination. So again, this is all out of the box, and you can add your own customizations as needed. And then this final task of lab 2 is how you can deploy your agent development kit. And the agent development kit is again what is deployed remotely on your function that can decide and define your custom tools. So your document understanding, your weather tool, and any other custom tool that you'd like to develop. So once your tools are deployed, you can start to configure your digital assistant. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Thomas, and he's going to give a guided tour on our digital assistant.
So here we are in Digital Assistant. Essentially, what this is a chatbot that you can build uh, within anything. We have many videos available, but I'm going to click into the skill that we're using today. So no intent here yet. I do have some entities. Essentially, these are just where I'm keeping all of my data that I need to pass to the agent. So we've built an agent framework and we need to pass these data items to them. This is how it works. So I built my entities and then I can go to my flow. Right, so you can see here on main flow, I don't have anything built. But if I check my unresolved intent, which is basically just anyone asking a question, I can check this, right? So from here, what I'm doing is starting the flow with a check attachment. So as Luke mentioned earlier, there is an ability to, within the bot, add an attachment. If I add that attachment, I want it to go south, right, to false. From there, I can use the payload, as you can see over here on the right, um, to understand what's in that attachment and then get those responses, right? But let's say I just insert text, then it goes north. Um, and from here, we're going to set a variable. Basically, exactly what you sent in becomes the variable. That is our payload. And then we're going to call the agent. So from here, we're calling the agent. You might be wondering, how did we set up this endpoint? How did we set up this REST service? So all of that happens on the top left. And I can go to settings and API services. Great. And I can check the endpoint that Luke has set up for me. So if I'm an ODA VBCS developer, Luke does all the work in the back end. He sets up this link for me. You can see that it says functions. So I plug that in and I tell it it's going to be a post call. I can give it a sample prompt, like you see here, and then session ID. So we can talk about session ID a little bit more. Okay. So here we're calling the REST service, and we're waiting for one of two responses, right? A 200 or anything other than 200, basically, right? So if we get a 200, we're going south. We're head to output. And if we're going north, what we're doing is recreating a new session. So this regenerates the agent. You don't want your agents on all the time, especially if they're in development. And then how this actually looks with using, we can use the preview button up here in the top right, but I'll hand it back off to Luke.
So right before our demo, I would like to quickly go over what it looks like from the OCI console perspective of how you can access the service. So here we have we're logged into our OCI tenancy. And in order to access the generative AI application, you can go to Analytics and AI. And under AI services, there's a couple different generative AI services. So the agent platform is what allows you to add your own custom tools. So that's not to be confused with the generative AI service, which allows you to call and create your own custom models. So we'll go into our generative AI agents. And if you go to agents, you can see this is where you go and create a new agent. And the agent it will download today is our test agent platform. And again, this goes through, it has instructions on how you want to route your tools, your user queries and questions to the tools. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to make sure that your instructions are clear and defined so that way your agent understands where to go. And another point I wanted to mention is you can see this all within our public documentation. So if you have one, I'll go ahead and paste this in our Zoom chat. But one point I wanted to emphasize here is this is where you can add examples for your SQL tool. So if you're not getting the results that you expect for a specific user's question against your data set, you can add examples here. So for example, show all employees who were born in California. And so you provide the question and an example Oracle SQL according to your table or your schema. So again, this has all the documentation. It also has various examples. So it's a good resource to reference along with this live lab. So with that, I'm going to move over to our demonstration. All right, so as you can see here, we have the Visual Builder application, and it's connected in the backend to the agent service through ODA. So we'll go ahead and ask a question. Our first question today will be to give me a list of employees. So this will in turn invoke the SQL tool, which will convert this user's question into that SQL statement. And it will create that database tools connection, get the response back, and then return it. So here we get our list of employees. And now we can ask a follow-up question, where are they located? So this is a different column in our table called location. So we can ask follow-up and decide and find out where our employees are based out of. All right, so we can see they're based out of Atlanta. And now we can invoke our weather tool to see how the weather is in Atlanta. So this will invoke our agent development kit deployed on our function, and that will invoke the API to get the weather in Atlanta. You can see it's 72 degrees. So now we're going to pivot into our document understanding tool. So when the user uploads their own custom documents or PDFs, what this will do is it will trigger the document understanding tool, which will send that document to the document understanding service within OCI. And that document understanding service will extract the content of that document, all the text, and send that text back to the agent. And the agent will give a short summary of that content. And so now the user can ask follow-up questions based on that document. So what are a few design principles? And again, this conversation history is being maintained by the session ID. So as Thomas showed earlier, the session ID is passed from the digital assistant, so that way, as the user asks follow-up questions, the agent can understand and maintain the conversation context. So now, for example, if you're a wine business and you're going to go to a wine tasting event with your clients, this is to show the different ways that you can expand upon various data sets within the same agent. So now here we have this complete separate data set that has a library of different wines. So now you can ask this question, which will invoke the RAG tool, which will go into the object storage bucket and extract the most relevant wines according to that data set and give a user-friendly response. So here we see a response of all the different wines you can try. And again, this isn't specific to any one data set. You can add and combine multiple different data sets. And you can even combine multiple different agents together. So just to reiterate, the demonstration today is using one agent with multiple different tools, but you can also have multiple agents combined and controlled by one master agent, and each of those have multiple different tools. And that unlocks a lot of different possibilities with your business in terms of deriving value from that.
All right, and we'll leave the Q&A section open. And in the meantime, Sean, over to you to talk about Code Innovate.
Fantastic. Well, first and foremost, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for taking some time out of your day to attend our presentation and demo. My name is Sean Cartwright. I'm a senior cloud engineer and program manager here at the Oracle Developer Experience team, also known as the Virtual Code Innovate team. And I want to tell you a little bit about a program that Tom and I have been a part of now for going on 6+ years here at Oracle. Um, so what is Virtual Code Innovate, also known as Code Innovate? In its simplest form, Code Innovate is a customer enablement and training program for new and existing Oracle customers, supported by a team of OCI engineers, such as myself and Tom. Code Innovate is a 5 half-day online event designed to educate builders like yourselves on Oracle Cloud while producing a first pass prototype on customer selected business challenges. So, over the course of a week, participants from your team are paired up with an Oracle engineer to guide them through best practices and on how we approach the process of code development or development. During this time, you're going to brainstorm on your business challenge, identify different tasks to complete, and partner with us to develop a minimum viable product. Anyone who wants to learn or contribute toward the goal is welcome to attend. Leadership and stakeholders are encouraged to attend during our event week kickoff session, typically on the first 30 minutes or so of day one. And then the final presentation, which it happens on the final day, and it's roughly 30 minutes to an hour. Code Innovate is all about building real solutions for your organization's most pressing problems. Um, so you may be asking yourself, what does this program offer? Like, what is the process by which we start planning for an event? So first, we start by reviewing your strategic use cases that you bring to us, which require at least one, if not multiple technologies to solution for. Then we pair up, that use case up with our engineers who have deep experience developing on those required services, and potentially, oftentimes, with similar use cases from past customer experiences that we've had over the years, which have been many in the hundreds. And with our guidance, we help your organization deliver a first pass prototype on the desired solution. And we'll take a closer look at the framework here. I just want to go back 1 second and make a point here. So, a point I'd like to make is that our program doesn't just support generative AI agents and autonomous database or anything tangentially related there. We support builds with many infrastructure and platform services on OCI, including cloud native services like Oracle Kubernetes Engine, DevOps Service, which is our CI/CD tool. We support Oracle Analytics Cloud, robotic process automation, which is part of Oracle Integration Cloud Suite, Oracle Digital Assistant, which we talked about a little bit here, which is a chatbot platform. We support Oracle Integration Cloud, including Visual Builder Studio and Visual Builder Cloud Service, and so many other services. But most times our use case builds involve multiple services that comprise the entire prototype solution. And the reason why I make this point is because oftentimes our webinars, like the one today, are on a single product or a topic or focus, but our team is capable of resourcing specialists within our team to meet your needs. There's only a certain number of technologies that we don't work with in OCI, but most everything we do. So everything that our team works on is a custom built prototype, tailor fit to your use case, and you own the intellectual property of what we create together. So once we've agreed on a suitable use case through a discovery call, we'll determine an event week. So once we've established that event week and we work towards that week, we'll help you with any tenancy configuration, which can include tasks like provisioning services, setting up users, connecting to data sources, networking, and things like that. We also offer what we call structured learnings, which are essentially training demos of the service or services that we'll be utilizing throughout the event that comprise that solution, like I had mentioned. Since many customers may be new to Oracle services, this is a great opportunity for participants to get some exposure to the tools that they will be developing in at the event. And even for other people of your organization, business users, or just anyone who might be interested in how the tool functions, it's typically like 45 minutes of demo, just like Luke and Tom went through today, a very similar approach where it's a little bit of PowerPoint and then a lot more of showing you around the console and getting you familiar with the features and functions of those products. And then once we've had the requisite planning sessions and those tenancy configuration, structured learnings, then we have the event. And so I just want to take some time here to walk you through like what our minimum requirements are, what our basic guidelines are for an event. So first, we ask that you bring your use cases because we want to work on things that you want to work on. We just have to mutually agree on whether or not the use case is suitable. In the spirit of true collaboration, it's important that we assign the correct engineers on our side with the skill sets needed to work with the requisite OCI services, that we need. And it's important that your team provides the resources knowledgeable about your data models, your business processes, and systems that our products will be interfacing with or integrating with and augmenting. Two, we go back internally and we ensure that we have those skill sets and that we can work with those technologies and make sure that we have people on our team that can staff that. Three, we can fulfill the 20-hour requirement. So 20 hours translates into 5 half days. These can be morning or afternoon sessions. And I should mention that we support multiple use cases or teams during an event. The ratio by which we staff our events is 4 customer engineers or builders to 1 Oracle engineer. This allows everyone to get more time, to get hands-on and learn to build in the various Oracle services, and third-party things that we might be connecting to, et cetera, et cetera. It just allows for more focused learning in a smaller group environment in breakout rooms in Zoom. Our events run typically Monday through Friday for 4 hours a day, like I had said, and we can accommodate most time zones, usually between like 8 to 5 p.m. Eastern, but a contiguous 4 block. So, it could be an AM or PM session. We usually need about at least 3 weeks of lead time to run an event. And those 3 weeks of lead time just ensure that we have the correct resourcing on our side, that you've blocked off your calendar on your side, and your resources are available. It's not that we don't meet for those weeks of the lead time. We're going to have those formal cadence meetings, like I had mentioned, and those sessions to set up your environment and so on, and structured learnings. But it also helps us, to manage our business and our calendar because we're doing multiple events a week, most days all throughout the year. So, as soon as we can get you on calendar, we work towards that date. Last but not least, I just want to mention that there's no fee to do this event beyond the time commitment for both of our sides and the cost of the cloud services that you consume to build out the use cases. But it's not like you have to pay us a fee necessarily to do this. And another note that I just want to make is that our program currently only supports customers that have accounts here in North America, which are US and Canadian customers. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions that you guys have. And if you have more questions that you want to drop in the Q&A, please feel free to, and I'll just land on this slide here. And if this program sounds like something you might be interested in exploring more, this was a truncated, presentation here. I'm happy to, have a call as we need further to talk with your teams and present to them on this. And there's several ways to get in touch with us. You have the email address here. You can reach out to your Oracle account manager if you know who that person is, that cloud platform representative, or your enterprise architect, and they can get a hold of us. So thank you so much for your time today, and I appreciate it. And back to you, Tara and team.
So, thank you all again so much for joining us. This is an ongoing series. So, if you liked what you saw today and you'd like to attend one of our upcoming events, you can find them all at oracle.com/developer/events. So, with that, I just wanted to say thank you again so much for joining us here today, spending your time here with us, and we hope that we will see you at the next one.